Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Rox, I'm Western Tropical Astrologer, and today we are going to be talking about the new moon solar eclipse in Virgo. This is coming up on the 21st of September. It is happening at 29 degrees of Virgo. And what does that mean? Well, it means that if you have in your natal chart planets, angles, important points around 29 degrees of the mutable signs, you are going to feel this eclipse the most. What are the mutable signs, you might ask? Virgo, Pisces, Sagittarius, and Gemini. The eclipse is happening at 7:43 p.m. GMT time, so you can of course adjust that for your own time zone. Like I said, it's going to be happening in the sign of Virgo. We've already had a new moon in Virgo in August, on the 23rd of August. And that actually took place at the very beginning of Virgo, at 0 degrees of Virgo. And now we have this solar eclipse happening at the very end of Virgo. So it's almost like a graduation sort of eclipse, metaphorically speaking, obviously. It's an eclipse that's happening at the south node. What does that mean? It means that even though solar eclipses themselves generally bring in new beginnings, very powerful new beginnings, this new beginning involves a release. It involves a surrender. It involves a letting go. It involves some sort of power outage. So the celestial tides go out via the south node and they come in via the north node. My very first recommendation before we dive into the energy of the eclipse, before we dive into the updates for each of the 12 zodiac signs, my very first recommendation would be to look back at what was going on in your life in January of this year. Why is that? Why in January? Especially second half of January, actually from the 11th, 12th of January onwards, because that is when the nodal axis was at the degree of the eclipse. So of this eclipse. So something came in, symbolically speaking, of course, into our lives in January, and now we have more clarity as to what that thing, what that energy represents, and how we can utilize it moving forward. Speaking of utilizing things moving forward, Virgo is an earth sign. So this eclipse is probably going to be focused on very concrete things, on very practical things, on things such as work, service, routines, health, habits, tangible issues, concrete problems that need to be addressed, that need to be solved. We're probably going to focus on reorganizing our lives in some shape or form, on cleaning things up in some shape or form. There's probably going to be new plans that are unfolding in our lives at the time of this eclipse. It is a good time to ask ourselves where, how, and why would we benefit from a new way of working, a new routine potentially, a new way of addressing existing issues, existing problems in our lives. It is a good time to think critically, to analyze a situation in a very practical, in a very pragmatic manner. And we might actually notice that the universe, the cosmos, has brought into our lives new solutions to old problems. Now, this eclipse is also going to be in opposition to Saturn, so Saturn in Pisces. There is a possibility that we might feel a tiny little bit restricted, a tiny little bit constrained in this new beginning that we're stepping into. Maybe we are very strongly aware of a burden, of a sense of duty, of a responsibility that we have to carry on our shoulders as we move into this fresh start. At the same time, the new moon is happening at 29 degrees of Virgo, as I've mentioned, and Saturn is going to be at the time of the eclipse at 28 degrees, 27 minutes of Pisces. What does that mean? It means that the exact opposition between the sun and even the moon, the sun and the moon and Saturn has happened in the past. Now, in the past when the eclipse is taking place. So essentially we have a separating opposition between the new moon and Saturn. So there is a very high possibility that we might be releasing an old burden. We might be releasing an old sense of duty and responsibility. We might be releasing an old structure and an old system that was restrictive and constraining, and maybe that we were in for way too long. It was essentially kind of like time to let it go. At the same time, of course, the opposition to Saturn can also mean that we're leaving behind something solid, something that we've built over time, something enduring, something persistent, and we're probably going to find new ways of working, but in the meantime, we're going to have to create those new ways. We're going to have to be very open about doing things differently, let's say. Now, eclipses are also considered to be very fated events, so there is a chance that some parts of our lives might be eclipsed, so to speak. So maybe for some people that's going to be a job, for some people that's going to be an old duty, an old responsibility. Of course, we're going to address all of these possibilities when we go through the updates for the 12 zodiac signs. Now, the eclipse will be ruled by Mercury in Libra. So there is a very strong focus here on working with others, collaborating with others, not going about things alone. Of course, Libra is an air sign and it is the ultimate sort of relationship sign, right? You're not alone. Think about how you can reach out to others. Think about how you can connect with others. Think about how you can make joint plans and work together towards common goals moving forward. That is another recommendation that I have at the time of this eclipse. I like the fact that Mercury is in a harmonious aspect to Pluto and to Uranus. To me, this says that we are going to have innovative, original, outside of the box ideas as to how to move forward. We are thinking about the future. We are open to progressive views. We are open to a different way of doing things. We are open to new connections. We are open to new partnerships. And all of this is probably going to make the process of transformation a lot smoother. Let's just put it this way. So that's something that I'm liking. Plus, we also have a mutual reception at the time between Mercury and Venus. So Mercury is going to be in Libra and Venus is going to be in Virgo. And even though Venus does not necessarily like to be in Virgo, it means that Mercury is getting that extra support from Venus. So they're actually supporting each other. So whatever exits our life at the time of this eclipse, I would embrace it as something that was maybe kind of like part of an old order. I know that sounds very theoretical, very symbolic, but hey, astrology is a language of symbols, and we do our best as astrologers to offer scenarios, to share how things could unfold from a 3D material reality perspective, but the reality is that astrology does not predict concrete material manifestation. It is only symbolically and archetypally predictive. Also because we have, you guessed it, free will. So we cannot predict what someone's going to have for dinner. In the same way, we cannot predict someone's free will, which I am a firm believer in the fact that it exists, although many times it might feel like our lives are unfolding on autopilot, which is why I believe we have to kind of act more consciously, act with intention, and stop and consider and reflect before we push forward with things. Ask ourselves, why am I doing this? What am I hoping to accomplish? What is the main driver behind my decision? What is the main sort of motivator behind my approach to a specific situation? Many times we just act out of the urge to fit in, out of the urge to blend in, out of the urge to not be judged. But I think it's important to stop, pause, and ask ourselves, am I acting in alignment with my true values? So that's a complete side note. This eclipse is also a great time to find new ways and to welcome into our lives new ways of being of service to other people. There is a possibility that the service might find us, just as another FYI. The path of the eclipse. So the eclipse will be visible in the South Pacific, including New Zealand and parts of Antarctica. That's what Google says. Why am I sharing this? Because it is said that technically at a collective level, at a societal level, eclipses are likely to affect territories, countries, from which the eclipse is actually visible. So they're likely to affect those territories the most. Of course, on an individual level, like I said, you're probably going to feel the influence of the eclipse the most if you have planets, angles, the North Node, important points such as the North Node, around 29 degrees of the mutable signs. Now, I do realize I did not mention who's going to enjoy this eclipse the most, or who will find it the most supportive, let's say. Those of you who have planets or angles around 28, 29 degrees of the following signs. Let's see. Scorpio, Cancer, Capricorn, and Taurus. The eclipse is going to form a harmonious aspect with your natal planetary placements. And if we were to sort of expand a little bit on that, Mercury, the ruler of the eclipse, is going to be at almost 6 degrees of Libra. So if you have planets in air signs, Libra, Gemini, and Aquarius around 5 to 6 degrees, you might also really like the energy of this eclipse. Now, before we go into the updates for each of the 12 zodiac signs, I would like to remind those of you who have been watching my videos, and also to share maybe for the first time with those of you who haven't watched any of my content up until this point. I would like to share the fact that I'm a full-time consulting astrologer. I work with clients one-to-one on a day-to-day basis. So if you want to work with me, if you want to book a personal astrological consultation, a personal reading, you can find me on my website, which is written in the stars-astrology.com. My website is also in the pinned comments and in the description box. And if you're a new client, the 1 hour, 15 minutes Zoom consultation is the option to go for. If you're an existing client, you can choose from the year ahead forecast, the 1 hour long year ahead consultation, or the 30 minutes follow-up consultation in case you have some more kind of like specific points that you want us to address. Maybe you want to talk about a short period of time, or maybe there is one particular topic that you want us to go even deeper into. If you are in a rush, if you are dealing with something quite urgent and you believe you would benefit from the astrological insights that I can share with you, there's also an emergency reading option on my website. In emergency readings, I combine astrology and tarot to help you make better informed decisions. So once again, written in the stars-astrology.com. Also may be very important for those of you who are wondering, hey, what can I get out of an astrological reading with Rux? In my work, I do natal chart interpretation, forecasting. So how can you make the most of the life chapter that you're in? How you can best prepare for challenges, maybe opportunities. I also do compatibility readings. I do relocation astrology using astrocartography and relocation charts. So these are just, I also do electional astrology, by the way, I forgot, especially for my existing clients. So if you're looking to launch a business, if you're looking to, I don't know, get married, if you want to select the most auspicious date for an important time in your life, I also offer electional astrology services. So have your pick. And like I said, you know where you can find me. After you book your session on my website, just know that there is a bit of waiting time between a few weeks to maybe a month, even a little bit longer than a month, until we actually meet up via Zoom. And I do all my video calls via Zoom so that we can also record them if you want to. Most people do want to record them because they find it very useful to go back and to re-listen to what we have discussed. Now, without further ado, let us go into the updates for each of the 12 zodiac signs. And remember, please, 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 to listen to the update for your rising sign, because general horoscopes are built with the rising sign in mind, okay? So find out your rising sign. You're going to need your time of birth for that. And then listen to the update for the rising sign. I know some people say, oh, listen to the update to the moon sign. I mean, if you don't know your rising sign, you can listen to the update for your sun sign. But the reason why we listen to the rising sign is because I use the whole sign house system, by the way. The rising sign is where the natal chart begins, so to speak, in terms of life sectors. So the rising sign in the first house represents you, your life path, your identity, your physical body. Then we've got the second house, which is the house of income, self-worth, etc. Then the third house of siblings, short distance traveling, etc. Then the fourth house of real estate. So this all begins, we begin the counting, so to speak, from the rising sign, which is why if you listen to the update for your moon sign, for example, that's got very little to do with the various life sectors in the natal chart. That's why I insist that you listen to the update for your rising sign. So, without further ado, let us dive into the update for the one and only Aries. Aries suns and Aries risings. 21st of September, active also, week before, week after, we have a solar eclipse, so a new beginning, in your 6th house in Virgo, opposing Saturn in your 12th house. And Mercury, the ruler of the eclipse, is going to be in your 7th house of partnerships, connections, and collaborations. So, my lovely Aries, this solar eclipse is probably going to bring a fresh start, a significant fresh start, either in your health sector or when it comes to your work. Now, there is a possibility that you might experience a fresh start on both fronts. Either fresh start involves a letting go of something, okay? So some of you might be letting go of an old way of working, like literal old way of working. Maybe your collaboration with a specific client comes to an end. Maybe you exit your current team and you move into a new team all together. Your day-to-day work might look very different. In what sense? Maybe you're going to have to use different tools. Maybe you're going to have to say goodbye to old structures in the workplace. So there's going to be new rules. You're saying goodbye to the old rules. You're saying goodbye to the old frameworks in the workplace. There is a possibility that some people might be leaving. So some colleagues might be leaving, or maybe a client might be leaving, or a combination of the aforementioned. At the same time, I do believe you're going to collaborate maybe with some really cool people work-wise moving forward. There is also a possibility that someone external might bring in a new opportunity work-wise. So maybe it's a recruiter, maybe it's someone that you've worked with in the past, and they come in and say, hey, don't you want us to work together again? This project came up and I thought of you, and alas, you're perfect. What say you? Let's do it. I do believe you're mentally kind of like super stimulated about what's coming in work-wise. I feel like you're excited about what you're going to learn. I also feel like you're excited about how this new way of working is going to impact your goals and plans for the future. The future is looking very different. The future has some like totally different flavors than what you thought it would have from a work perspective, but that's not a bad thing if you ask me. Now, from a health perspective, there is a possibility you might start a fresh chapter that involves releasing old habits, maybe releasing an old routine. there is also a possibility that you might finally feel free of maybe some sort of oppressive force that was holding you back, maybe from a mental perspective, from a psychological perspective. Maybe you're also free to focus on your health and to finally, I don't know, quit smoking, for instance, because you no longer have to worry about something that's been on your mind, something that's been a bit of a burden from a mental health perspective. Maybe also something that involved staying up late at night or doing a lot of charitable, selfless work, let's say. And is it a good time to start working with someone on the health front? Absolutely, especially if there's anything that you want to let go of, such as, again, maybe a habit, for instance. So if you want to quit smoking, let's just use that example. It could be a great time to start working with a hypnotherapist, for instance. And that is Aries. My dear Taurus suns and Taurus risings. 21st of September, active week before, week after. We have a solar eclipse happening in your, let's see, in your 5th house, opposing Saturn. So there is a possibility that you might start working on a new creative project, but I feel like you've got some really mixed feelings around this, Taurians, especially Taurus risings, because you are essentially distancing yourselves, Taurians, from maybe a community, a group of people, an organization that you used to work with, and maybe they've been an important part of your path, maybe even of your professional path, and now you're sort of like striking out on your own. I'd say. I feel like you're exploring new ways of expressing yourselves creatively, Taurians, and you might be a little bit worried about how the world is going to perceive this new approach, but if you don't try, if you don't experiment a little bit, how are you gonna know? You're not gonna know. I also believe that you are going through a process of establishing maybe like new routines when it comes to your creative endeavors, maybe also your hobbies, your passions. And once again, the focus seems to be on distancing yourselves from doing things together with maybe a community or maybe together with friends, and you're saying, hey, I'm kind of like gonna do this based off of what makes me happy, based off of what I know works for me in the long term, as opposed to what others expect me to do. If you have children, this solar eclipse can also bring a fresh start in connection with children, my dear Taurians. Your child might say goodbye to a friend or to a group of friends. Maybe they're starting school. Maybe, I don't know, you're no longer going to be able to take them to like football classes, or for whatever reason, it feels like they're no longer going to be spending the time with the same people that they've been spending time with up until this point. So it could be a little bit bittersweet what's happening in the life of children. I feel like you're also establishing a new way of working with children in some shape or form. Taurians, what does that mean? Maybe your kids need a new routine altogether. Maybe they need you to be of service to them in a totally different way, in a completely new way. There is a possibility that you might also be very, very focused on your children's health, and as a result, establish new routines and establish potentially a new kind of like schedule for them to, I don't know, be more physically active, for example. I do believe that this eclipse means that you're going to be busier in some shape or form. But you're going to be busy somehow, either in the service of people that you love, so in the service of children, for example, or you're going to be busy with a new creative project work-wise. I do believe you're very open-minded at the time of this eclipse, and you're sort of like welcoming in new ideas and new approaches. There's also a possibility you might finally distance yourselves from someone that is just not good for you, my lovely Taurians. Maybe they're not good for your health. Maybe they're not good for your mental health, and that someone could be an old friend, but it could also be a community of people. Geminis, Gemini suns and Gemini risings. 21st of September, active week before week after. We have a solar eclipse, so a big new beginning, happening in your 4th house of home, family, private life. So we have a fresh start at home that involves a release of some sorts. So some of you might be moving into a new home and maybe you're selling your old house. Some of you might be clearing out the house. So maybe you are donating things that you're no longer using. Maybe you're getting rid of like old furniture, objects that are no longer working. It feels like there's a new order at home in some shape or form. There is a possibility that you might start being of service in a new way to a family member. So maybe one of your parents needs you to help them with something, and you basically have to reorganize your life in some shape or form to support them in a practical way. There is also a possibility that a parent is going through a fresh start of some sorts. That fresh start might involve leaving behind a job or an old system in their life, an old structure, something that they've built over time. So I would not be surprised if some people saw one of their parents maybe retiring, for example. There is also a possibility that some of you could be leaving behind an important role, an important job, an important prestigious, let's say, element of your work, of your career, to focus more on an aspect connected with your home, an aspect connected with your family life. Mercury, which is the ruler of the eclipse, is going to be in the 5th house. As much as you could be saying goodbye to something, as much as you could be kind of like closing a chapter, but potentially from a career perspective so that you can focus more on your home life, I feel like part of you is very excited. I feel like part of you maybe is even feeling a little bit like celebratory, let's say. There is a possibility that a loved one is really happy for this kind of like fresh start in your life. So maybe it's one of your kids, maybe it's your parent who's gonna get to see you more. Mercury is in a harmonious aspect to both Pluto and Uranus. This is interesting because I do see you being very open-minded. I do see you being very excited somehow about doing things differently in your private life. I see you being eager to experiment. I see you being eager to welcome new people in. As I said, new ways of thinking, new ideas. And I also see you being very excited to dedicate yourselves more to the people and the connections and the relationships that genuinely make you happy. And there is a strong sense of releasing a burden at the time of this eclipse. I do want to put it out there. My dear Cancerians, Cancer suns and Cancer risings. Okay, we've got a solar eclipse, 21st of September, active week before, week after, in the sign of Virgo, in your 3rd house of logical thinking, siblings, cousins, neighbors, local community, cars, learning, transportation. So for some of you Cancerians, this eclipse could literally bring a fresh start when it comes to your preferred mode of transportation. So maybe you're selling your old car or getting rid of your old bike and you are welcoming in a new one altogether. Some of you could be experiencing a reset when it comes to the interaction with maybe a sibling, a cousin, someone who is sort of like very close to you in terms of local proximity. maybe a neighbor is moving and you had a good relationship with them and you're like sad to see them go. I feel like something is exiting your local community, and you have some mixed feelings around that. I also believe this eclipse is making you aware of the fact that you need to kind of like declutter your mind. You need to clear out your head. You've been too worried. Maybe you're still worrying. Maybe you are focusing too much on the things that you can't control, the difficulties that you don't necessarily have that much power over, the potential like challenges and obstacles and delays that might appear further down the line. And this eclipse invites you to think differently. It invites you to go about your day, maybe by making lists, by focusing on by essentially focusing your mind on the practical kind of like tasks at hand. So giving your mind something concrete to work on. I do also believe you're open to new ideas when it comes to problems or challenges in your life, maybe connected with studies, travel, transportation, local community, but also potentially old issues connected with your home life and family life and private life. So you're kind of like very open to thinking differently, to doing things differently, and you might even take a different approach when it comes to communicating about these issues. And as you communicate in a novel way, maybe you put less pressure on yourselves to always, I don't know, have it all figured out. You might be very pleasantly surprised to see that family members and even people that you never expect to kind of like get any support from are here to support you. If you think it's time to learn something new, this eclipse is sort of like emphasizing that. Maybe you need to learn something new that's going to help you deal better with challenging situations at home or challenging dynamics in your relationships with other people. From a more practical standpoint, this could be a great time to do a massive clear out, Cancerians. When it comes to sort of like old things in the home that you no longer use, and maybe it's a good time to donate them. I'm looking especially at third house kind of objects. So for instance, books, magazines, maybe even gadgets, let's say. That is Cancerians. My dear Leos, Leo suns and Leo risings. 21st of September, active week before, week after, we've got a solar eclipse in Virgo in your second house. Okay, Leos, this is a mixed bag kind of eclipse for you. Definitely the focus is going to be on money, your resources, your time, your energy, and your self-worth. I feel like you are ready to be less hard on yourselves, less critical, less judgmental towards yourselves, and more appreciative towards what you bring to the table. I'm just going to say it, Leos. So maybe you are finally ready to release an old value of perfectionism and trying to do everything sort of like super top notch. I'm not saying don't try, but what I am saying is perfectionism, I mean, it's probably the number one source of anxiety out there. And let's face it, perfection does not exist. Good enough exists. So yeah, maybe this is the time when you realize I don't have to do things perfect. I can show up. I can try my best. I can work with other people to the best of my abilities. And the rest is just sort of like out of your hands. You might be releasing an old source of income, and that might make room for you to revisit your budget. So this fresh start that you're experiencing from a financial perspective could involve reorganizing your budget, maybe creating a new budget, creating a new way of managing your budget. I mean, did someone say spreadsheets? I'm sure there's better ways of managing a budget, but I know there's like apps these days and so on. So it's a good time to clear out whatever is no longer working from a financial perspective. So if there are any existing subscriptions that you're not making any use of, cut them out. You might also be saying goodbye to maybe a source of income because it is not worth the hassle. It is not worth the mental anguish. So let's say you have a very difficult client and they're eating up all of your time and they're not even paying that much better. And you might decide to cut them off and say, thank you, but I'm going to focus on my other clients, even though I'm essentially saying no to some money right now. Your business is just not worth the emotional chaos, so to speak. There's also a possibility you might be unburdening yourselves of a financial duty, of maybe a financial burden such as, I don't know, like paying off a loan or like supporting someone financially. And you do actually seem to be quite optimistic when it comes to finances, my lovely Leos. Mercury is going to be in your third house of learning, speaking, connections, communications. At the time of the eclipse, part of you might direct some of your money and resources towards maybe a new class, a new, I want to say the development of a new skill set or of a new skill in some shape or form. Maybe you are working with, I don't know, like a coach, or maybe you're working with a mentor to help you kind of like refine your skills in some shape or form. It is a great time to also have very open, very straightforward conversations around money, because this is probably going to take a massive weight off your shoulders, Leos. So, hey, it is absolutely worth it. My dear Virgos, Virgo suns and Virgo risings, lovely Virgos, of course, you're the stars of this eclipse because, hey, it's happening in your sign. So there's a lot going on in your sign. You did have a new moon happening in your sign also in August. So we've got one fresh start after the other, essentially. New identity, new life path, new life direction, Virgos. That involves a release of an old connection, relationship, collaboration, partnership that has been holding you back, or that maybe has been very restrictive in some shape or form. So let's say you've been working with someone and your contract ended. You might feel free. And although you're essentially saying goodbye to a job or a project that's been an important part of your day-to-day work, Virgos, you are probably quite excited to explore a completely different life trajectory. Now, I also love this eclipse from a symbolic perspective because it feels like you're going through a process of emptying. So you're kind of like emptying who you thought you should be. You're kind of metaphorically emptying yourselves of any kind of like preconceived notions around what your life should look like, how you should show up in the world, what path you should take. And nature abhors a vacuum. So whenever you release parts of yourselves, parts of your old sense of identity that are no longer authentic, that no longer serve you, you're creating room, you're creating space for very beautiful things to happen. I do believe your relationship with yourselves is changing for the better, if you ask me. I also believe that your sense of self-worth is getting a boost, my lovely Virgos. You might also, from a very practical perspective, decide to invest more money into your health, into your well-being, into taking care of yourselves. Speaking of taking care of yourselves, this eclipse can bring in a fresh start when it comes to routines that focus on your wellness, health, and well-being. So if there's anything that you've been doing that's not necessarily that great for the body, I don't know, maybe staying awake at night, not sleeping enough, I don't know, smoking, I keep on giving this example. This eclipse is supporting you, Virgos, to let go of those old ways of kind of like pushing your body, those old ways of working with the body in one way or another. I feel like you're also very focused on reorganizing your life, Virgos, and planning for the future, and especially planning for exciting things from a professional perspective, from a material perspective, and from a physical health, wellness, and well-being perspective. The good news is I definitely see money being very present in your life. I feel like you've got the energy, you've got the resources, you've got the money to invest in yourselves, to reorganize your life, to reinvent yourselves. And yes, it is finally time to say goodbye to some people, maybe some old connections, some old collaborators in the workspace. But also some of you could be saying goodbye to a romantic partnership that has run its course, and you realize, hey, I'm not the best version of myself with this person, so why do I keep on showing up? My dear Libras, Libra suns and Libra risings, 21st of September, active week before, week after, we have a solar eclipse in your 12th house. So again, another kind of like new beginning when it comes to letting go of all the things that are sabotaging you. Libras, what are these things? Habits, routines, excessive perfectionism, excessive sort of like critical thinking. Maybe I'm also looking at addictions sometimes. Obviously I'm no expert. I'm not a therapist. I haven't studied psychology, but I have seen a tendency for like the Virgo energy, and that doesn't mean that this happens to you if you're a Virgo. So I'm speaking of things like archetypally, metaphorically, and obviously we're talking about the Libra update, but Libra risings have Virgo in their 12th house, right? So they can essentially undo themselves via Virgo things. They can undo themselves via being too much of a perfectionist, via sweating the small stuff too much. I have essentially sometimes seen a tendency for people with a lot of Virgo energy to kind of like try to escape the noise of their minds, and the kind of like the inner kind of like critic always being on and on and on and like blabbering away, and the path towards escaping this inner critic sometimes does involve addictions, vices, let's say, toxic habits. Keep on saying smoking, but it could be literally, it could be anything. So Libras, you are supported in taking a good, long, hard look at how you're sabotaging yourselves and cutting that out. You're not alone. You have clarity. You can see very clearly, hey, this is not serving me physically. You have people who love you in your life. Mercury is in a very supportive aspect with Pluto in the 5th house of love. And you also seem to have an aha moment. It's almost like your mind is enlightened. Maybe you're having some enlightening conversations that show you exactly, hey, this is what you need to get rid of. Habits-wise, patterns-wise. You might even have some very kind of like powerful dreams, especially Libra risings around the time of this eclipse. I think it's a great idea, Libra risings especially, to look at your life and count your blessings in a way, and realize that you don't always have to be so hard on yourselves or on other people. It's okay to have fun. It's okay to take things a little bit more lightly. It's okay to be open to new ideas. People can always surprise you. People can always spark inspiration in you. And there is a very high possibility that someone might kind of like spark this like new kind of worldview and perspective upon life, and that is probably going to help you let go of whatever is no longer working. You might also start doing some sort of like clear out in your life, maybe cleaning out your like closets, or kind of like cleaning out whatever doesn't feel energetically aligned with where you're headed, where you're going, and so on. So I like this this eclipse. By the way, if you're not taking care of your mental health, then this eclipse is saying it's important. It's important to dive into the subconscious. It's important to do shadow work. I know this is being sort of like thrown around these days so much, but what did Jung say? What did Carl Gustav Jung say? Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life and you will call it fate. I'm paraphrasing. I don't remember the exact quote, but it's something along those lines. So make the unconscious and the subconscious conscious, Libras. My dear Scorpios, Scorpio suns and Scorpio risings. 21st of September. Active week before, week after, we have a solar eclipse in your 11th house. A fresh start when it comes to goals and plans for the future. A new beginning when it comes to working with groups of people, communities, organizations. A new beginning that involves new kind of like habits, new routines, as I said, new ways of working, maybe new ways of being of service. New ways of being of service to a community, potentially. New habits and new routines, maybe when it comes to interacting with your friends, your circle. There could be new people coming into your life, work-wise. You might enter a new community with a view to sort of collaborate with these folks from a professional perspective. I feel like you're also letting go of an old set of goals and you're making room for new goals. And you're quite hopeful as a result of that. You no longer feel maybe stressed or worried or anxious about not being able to achieve this goal. You might say, hey, actually, I realize this ain't even that important for me. I have other priorities right now. If you've been burdened, let's say, with maybe like a specific role or job or task, or maybe even burdened with anxiety in relation to a loved one, when it comes to maybe a parent or one of your children, I believe that you're letting go of that burden. I believe that things are essentially kind of getting resolved and there's hope for the future, and you no longer need to kind of like plan for a future where you think, oh my God, I'm going to have to carry this with me all the time. This is going to be kind of like my like cross to bear, etc., etc. You might be saying goodbye to some friends also because, I don't know, maybe they're moving, they're changing countries, they're relocating. Speaking of relocating, there is a possibility that for some of you Scorpio risings especially, relocation is on your mind, and you could be sort of like weighing your options and thinking, is it worth saying goodbye to the friendship circle that we've built? Is this going to affect the kids? Is it not going to affect the kids? And so on. I feel like you need to reorganize the way that you've kind of like built, Scorpios, systems and structures in your life focused on either children, but maybe also focused on your passions and your hobbies. I'm just going to give you an example. Let's say you are you're a very active person. You're very kind of like dynamic, and you like to work out and you like to move your body. And maybe you've built a life where you've kind of consistently made room for workouts on your own. And now you might be thinking, hey, maybe I need to make room for group workouts. Maybe I want to join a tennis club, for instance. So that is also very much a possibility. There are some secrets coming to light. I'm going to say it. Secrets from the past, maybe connected with family, maybe even with ancestors, maybe with your legacy. For whatever reason, you seem to feel liberated when these secrets do come to the surface. So whatever comes up, I wouldn't worry about it that much. Sagittarius suns and Sagittarius risings. 21st of September, active week before, week after, we have a solar eclipse, a big new beginning in your 10th house of career, public status, and public reputation. Oh, this is very interesting. So you're ready for a fresh start. A fresh start is definitely underway for most Sagittarius risings from a career perspective. It's a fresh start that you are really looking forward to when it comes to kind of envisaging yourselves into the future and saying, would I like to do this moving forward? Do I see myself in this industry? Do I see myself in this role? So for some of you, this could bring a new role. This could bring a promotion. It could bring, maybe for some of you, a change of industry, a change of career direction, because eclipses, let's face them, are really powerful new beginnings. So this could feel like a fated kind of change of destiny when it comes to your professional path. I repeat, the good news seems to be you totally see yourself enjoying this new path career-wise moving forward. For some of you, this could involve a new way of working with communities, with groups of people. For some of you, this could involve collaborating on like really kind of like exciting things, really exciting projects, really exciting kind of ideas with people that you haven't worked with before. Give me 1 second. Okay, fantastic. For some of you Sagittarians, this eclipse could also bring in new friends and maybe also career opportunities coming from friends, or new friends via your professional life. Whatever it is that you're talking about, and whoever it is that you're talking to around the time of this eclipse, I feel like something really exciting is going to come out of it, and something that will support your evolution, professionally speaking. From a status and reputation perspective, you could be saying goodbye to an old role, an old maybe image. Maybe you're going through a process of rebranding. Now, you do seem to be leaving behind, Sagittarians, maybe a sense of being restricted, being restrained, being held back by your home life, your family life, maybe by a family member. Maybe you've had some like really tough times home-wise in the past few years. Maybe you've had some like challenges, some burdens at home that you've had to deal with over an extended period of time as of 2023, especially. That is all in the past, or you're kind of like slowly but surely walking away from that. For some Sagittarius risings, I do have to say this eclipse can bring in a move. And if it does bring a move, it's probably connected with your evolution career-wise. Also, there may be a parent who's changing their career path. Maybe because they've had enough, they no longer want to do whatever it is that they're doing right now. If that is happening, I do believe it's probably a very good idea, a very exciting journey to embark upon. Because sometimes we just kind of like have to take stock and say, hey, do I really want to keep on fighting like this uphill battle, or is there another way to do things? And I believe there is another way. I believe you are kind of like getting these like massive like insights and aha moments and like glimpses of inspiration about how your future could look like, and you are ready. You're ready to step into that future that is maybe easier somehow in terms of work and burdens, and maybe more fulfilling in terms of what you want to achieve. Capricorns, Capricorn suns and Capricorn risings. 21st of September, active week before, week after, we have a solar eclipse in your 9th house. My dear Capricorns, have a think about what was going on in your life in January, especially, I want to say from the 11th, 10th of January onwards, when it comes to one of the following topics: travel, in-laws, academia, legal matters, foreign lands, foreign countries, interactions with people from different cultures, any sort of like interaction that you have maybe with religious or spiritual institutions. This eclipse can put the spotlight once more on the themes that were on your radar beginning of 2025. Some important conversations are happening around the time of this eclipse. Conversations with whom? Siblings, cousins, in-laws, maybe neighbors, maybe mentors, maybe teachers, maybe publishers if you are dealing with publishers, maybe legal advisors. So important conversations are happening. You might decide to kind of like approach a matter that's been discussed in a very, 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 very different way. I do believe that someone is disagreeing with you. And you're obviously disagreeing with them. So if they're disagreeing with you, I think it's mutual. At the same time, I would be really open to maybe kind of like trying out a different approach, a different tactic, a different strategy when it comes to whatever it is that you're disagreeing with this person. If it is a matter connected with your career and your profession, this person's idea might actually work a lot better than your initial tactic or approach. In-laws could experience a fresh start. There is a possibility that maybe they're leaving behind an old system, an old structure, an old foundation. Maybe someone is retiring. Maybe someone is moving homes. So there is this sense of like a new maybe like lifestyle or a new kind of day-to-day set of like habits and routines for maybe one of your in-laws. And maybe you're a little bit kind of like mentally conflicted as to how they're going to manage. But I do believe they're probably going to manage because they have good people around them. You might finally feel ready to focus on changes in the workspace, changes in your career. I do believe that there are some changes coming up career-wise. You're probably going to start working with a whole different set of people, maybe even with people who are based abroad or people from like a different cultural background, or maybe you're going to have to travel more to an office that is, I don't know, based outside of the country or in a different state. Initially, you may not like it, and you might have even said, hey, I don't want to do this. This is not a great idea. Why are you making me do this? Of course, no one is forcing you. Obviously, you can, I don't know, like consider other options. But I say, give it a chance. You might actually find it a lot more exciting and satisfying and fulfilling and enriching this maybe new way of working than you thought you would. So always keep an open mind. That's what I say. My dear Aquarius, Aquarius suns and Aquarius risings. We've got a solar eclipse, 21st of September. Active week before, week after, in your 8th house with a south node opposing Saturn. So I've got good news, hopefully. Again, because astrology is only archetypally and symbolically descriptive. And I also have a few kind of, I don't know, like things to watch out for you. Fresh start when it comes to debts, taxes, other people's money. Maybe you're getting rid of debts. Maybe you're paying off loans. Maybe you're paying off your credit card altogether. Maybe you are kind of like working with someone on a joint budget. It could be your partner. It could be your business partner. It could be, I don't know, a family member. You're working with them on a new joint budget. You're doing things differently. So there's kind of like a new approach, a new system in place. You might not be 100% sold on this new way of working. You might not be 100% sold on this new system. The thing is, I believe this new system, this new way of working is probably going to save you money. It's probably going to benefit you from a financial perspective. And as much as you might initially be conflicted, I say, give it a chance. Give it a chance. Be open. I almost believe that you're going to have more money, more money to spend on traveling, more money to spend on fun activities, more money to spend on, I don't know, like health and looks and your physical body. So do give things a shot. You might also start working with someone to help you clear out maybe any remnants of past wounds, suffering, trauma that's been holding you back from achieving your full potential from a personal standpoint. Yes, this could be expensive. I don't know, maybe you're working with like a new counselor, like a new therapist, but you do seem to be doing things in a novel way. So maybe this person brings in a new technique, maybe a new sort of like approach, maybe a more holistic approach, maybe an approach that also emphasizes connection with the body and feeling safe and kind of like working through things from a somatic perspective. I gotta say, it's probably worth every penny. You will probably be so pleasantly surprised by the effects. So I feel like you're clearing out things sort of like stored in the body that have been holding you back. You might even be clearing out old fears that have been holding you back. I feel like it's a good time to welcome someone in who can bring in like a new set of ideas, a new maybe tactic, a new perspective upon life, a new set of practices. Even though I repeat, part of you might feel really like stuck and reluctant and fearful. New approach also when it comes to intimacy. I'm just going to say it, 8th house. Intimacy, intimate connections with others. Maybe the old way of doing things from an intimacy perspective was overly, how should we call it? Overly focused on solving problems and on kind of like fixing things. So I feel like you're going to be open to doing things a tiny bit different and maybe be less critical of yourselves, less critical of how the other person shows up, and just kind of experiment. That is Aquarius. My dear Pisces, Pisces suns and Pisces risings. 21st of September, active week before, week after. We've got a solar eclipse in your 7th house of partnerships, of relationships, of one-to-one interactions. And Mercury, the ruler of the eclipse, is in a harmonious aspect to Pluto and Uranus. Okay, this is... I want to say, like my first kind of like instinct was to say, this is great. And I know there's going to be some people commenting and saying, Rux, eclipses, no, how can they be great? Da-da-da-da-da. Eclipses were traditionally considered to be malefic. Da-da-da-da-da. I'm still going to stick to my guns and say this is great. Why is it great? A relationship is going through a process of transformation, my dear Pisces. It could be a relationship with your significant other. It could be a relationship with a family member. It could be a relationship with, I want to say, an adversary, someone who you've considered an opponent in some shape or form. It is transforming for the better. So you're probably going to find a new way of working with this person, a new way of kind of like solving your problems, a new way of kind of like dealing with each other, a new dynamic. You're probably also going to be really open to improving a relationship, and the other person is equally open. And in order to show that they're open, they're going to say, I don't know what they're going to say, because, hey, I'm not like a mind reader, but they might say something along the lines of, I'm going to criticize you less. I'm going to be less nitpicky, less focused on the kind of like small stuff, less fastidious. And I'm going to focus on the big picture. And I will welcome in your ideas and your input. Speaking of ideas and input, I think this is a great time to welcome someone's ideas and input into your life. Pisces risings, especially, someone else's input and ideas are probably going to help you transform your life In what way? Maybe you've been overburdened. Maybe you've been dealing with something with Saturn in your first house on your own. Maybe this has caused stress and emotional difficulties, and you've been feeling a bit down and sad and low and depressed. And this other person comes in and says, hey, I can make your life easier. So your job, if you ask me, Pisces, is to say yes. But who am I to tell you what to do with your life? Obviously, you have free will. To me, it does look like this person is going to simplify things for you from a very practical standpoint. Maybe they're going to take some things on board and take some things off your plate. Maybe they're going to offer a very kind of like concrete suggestion as to how things can improve. They might just kind of like bring in a whole new solution that you did not consider at all. There's also a possibility that you might feel less burdened emotionally, Pisces, especially Pisces risings, because someone's coming in and they're offering you potentially a new way of working, new solutions to old problems, but maybe also some sort of financial support, or maybe whatever service they're bringing into your life is going to make things easier for you from a financial perspective. Maybe you're going to have less expenses. Maybe this person is going to like handle some of the expenses, or maybe they're like bringing in extra money. So I am liking things. For those of you who are single, this eclipse can actually bring a fresh start from a relationship perspective, and it could feel like someone new is coming in that does have this sort of like quality of maybe you being very familiar with them and you already kind of like knowing them even though you haven't met them before. Maybe you know them from a past life. The South Node can generally bring people from past lives as well, if you believe in past lives. If you don't, completely up to you. I personally do. I have already done way too many past life regressions not to believe in past lives. So from a romantic perspective, someone can kind of like turn your life upside down in the best of ways. If you are already in a marriage, long-term relationship, and so on, there is a possibility that your partner could be experiencing a fresh start from a work perspective or from a health perspective, or maybe from like both standpoints, and for whatever reason, that seems to, again, kind of like lift a weight off your shoulders. Now, maybe initially you're a bit reluctant. Maybe you're thinking, is this really the real deal? Is this really something for me to get excited about? I say get excited about it, even though, I repeat, you might be quite morose and skeptical to begin with, Pisces. Folks, I want to thank you for tuning in for your solar eclipse update. Let us know in the comments how this celestial event unfolds for you. And if you like my content, if you find it useful, if you find it interesting, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and share with your friends. And if you want to make a donation to my channel, if you want to support my work, you can do so using the thanks button underneath the video. Now, if you want to work with me one-to-one, again, I've left the link to my website in the description box and in the comments, in the pinned comments section. I work with clients one-to-one on a day-to-day basis. I've been doing this full-time for, it's getting close to 5 years. I've been a practicing astrologer for over a decade, way more than that. If you're active on other social media platforms, such as Instagram, TikTok. My Instagram handle is ruxunbelievable. Ruxunbelievable in one word. That's also where I post more kind of like personal updates. My TikTok handle is the exact same, and I only have one account on Instagram and on TikTok. So if you find other kind of like people posting things that are created by yours truly here, please either ignore them or report them if they are pretending to be me. Thank you once again, and I will see you next time. Bye.